moratorium on taser use by Canadian enforcement agencies. And I have a second petition, Mr. Speaker, one in French and one in English. And this is a call to suspend the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America on continental integration. And they petition the Government of Canada as follows. Whereas the implementation of the Security and Prosperity Partnership...
Order. The honourable member for London Township, I know she can't read the petition, and when she said as follows and then begins reading, she's got a problem. It's a brief summary she's to give of the petition, and I invite her to do that.
Mr. Speaker, I will paraphrase. The petitioners are calling upon the Government of Canada to stop the implementation of the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America with the United States and Mexico, because they believe there is no democratic mandate from the people of Canada. There has been no parliamentary oversight, and they consider that there will be profound consequences on Canada's existence as a sovereign nation and its ability to adopt autonomous and sustainable economic, social, and environmental policies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and the petitions continue to come in support of Bill C-458, an act to amend the Canada Post Corporation Act library materials, which will protect and support the library book rate and extend it to include audio-visual materials.
Member for Nepean Carleton.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to begin by presenting a petition on behalf of the Honourable Member for Ottawa West Nepean. And the petitioners bring forward this note that Parliament should lift the visa requirements for the Republic of Poland. Secondly, I have here a petition from constituents in my riding and across the country who call upon this Parliament to condemn the persecution of Coptic Christians in Egypt who have been systematically persecuted in that country. There are 12 million of these indigenous Christian people living in Egypt being persecuted by terrorists, extremists, and even members of the government there, and they call on our government and this Parliament to take a principled stand in defending religious freedom and the liberty the ancient liberty that is owed to the Coptic Christians that live in Egypt. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Victoria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I have two petitions. Students from across Canada are facing incredible soaring tuition fees and an average student debt of about $25,000. And they're asking that the Minister makes certain that the review of Canada's student loan system address some of the key flaws in that program. First of all, by creating a needs-based grant system, by reducing the federal loan interest, by creating a federal ombudsman, by ensuring better relief payments that include things like expanding eligibility for permanent disability benefits, created enforceable standards on the conduct of government and private student loan collection agencies, amend the lifetime limit on student loans, Mr. Speaker. And I have another petition from many seniors who are facing lowered benefits because of an error made by Statistics Canada in its calculation of the Consumer Price Index. This resulted in Canada's inflation numbers being underrated by 0.5 percentage point, and this mistake is being made, Mr. Speaker, by anyone whose benefits are tied to the Consumer Price Index, including the recipients of Canada Pension Plan, the Old Age Security, and the Guaranteed Income Supplement. And they are asking the Parliament of Canada and the government to take full responsibility for this error and take the required steps to repay every Canadian who was shortchanged. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Alberni.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I actually have two petitions here today. One is for the subject of acetaminophen, Mr. Speaker. About 142 signatures from across British Columbia, and I see many from Quebec as well. The petitioners are calling on Parliament to take note that acetaminophen is the most common pharmaceutical involved in unintentional and intentional poisonings in all age groups. in British Columbia, and they note that both acute and chronic acetaminophen overdose can cause potentially fatal liver toxicity. They're calling for warning labels, appropriate warning labels, to reduce the incidence. They're asking Parliament to require that warning labels for products containing acetaminophen indicating acute and chronic overdose may lead to fatal liver toxicity. Mr. Speaker, the second petition is from some 380 plus people about natural health products, and they're noting that Canadians support the use of natural health products to promote health and wellness. They're noting that improved access to natural health products will help Canadians to better manage their own health and relieve pressure on the Canadian healthcare system. The petitioners are calling on Parliament to provide Canadians with greater access to natural health products by removing the GST from them and enacting Bill C404, an act to amend the Excise Tax Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the pleasure to present two petitions today. They're quite large petitions. I think the first one is from in and around the Edmonton, Northern Alberta area. It's about 100 or more, actually, more petitioners asking that we appoint a special envoy to focus on Darfur, play a working role with other countries to unify rebels, as well as to provide expert help, financial resources, and equipment to the United Nations African Mission in Darfur. That was the first petition. The second petition is another large petition, I think of about over 1,000 people from Western Canada, Northern Canada as well. And this petition is on behalf of Dylan Cole McGillis, who was an unsuspecting victim of an unprovoked, violent, and fatal attack, and on behalf of thousands of other Canadian citizens who are victims of violent crimes, that the House of Commons introduced legislation whereby violent offenders are subject to mandatory minimum sentences regardless of age. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Présentation de pétition. Questions on the order paper. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that all questions be allowed to stand.
So ordered. Notices of motion for the production of papers. Avis de motion portant production de documents. L'Honorable Secrétaire parlementaire du Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that all notices of motion for the production of papers be allowed to stand.
So ordered. Order. The Chair has received an application for an emergency debate from the Honourable Member for Nanaimo Cowichan. I will hear her now.
Thank